the way that we can go into the forest. I'll give you an example. For example, the Mangrove in the Forest Management and Conservation Act of Kenya, they're talking of conservation of mangrove, blah, 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 and then all that is in the upper and lower mark. What is that? Upper and lower mark water, upper and lower water mark, intertidal area. They're all, so that's the mangrove area. Yes. When you look at the Fisheries Act, it's talking about conservation of habitats and nurseries for fish. You understand? Isn't mangrove a nursery and habitat for fish? So these are the kind of acts I want you to identify. You understand? So because you will use that to prove your project. You understand? You will use that to explain the governance of your system. They might not be a direct act. Even for the Constitution of Kenya, is talking about public forests are managed by the government. So anyone who is going to do this and this and this is under this is not right, under the Constitution of Kenya. So already it's a public forest. We know mangrove is a public forest, so they are governed with the Constitution of Kenya. So that's something, it's important to know the institution and how you can come in with any other nature-based enterprises within the mangrove forest. You have to know your system. As developers or as you have to understand the governance of this system for you to be able to do this. Okay, and there are a lot of activities, a lot of livelihood activities that they can be done in the mangrove forest. It's not, the carbon offset project just came in because of the climate change impact. You know that, yeah? But before that, we used to do other activities. It is because of the increase of carbon dioxide, depletion of ozone layer, and people were looking at ways in which to reduce these carbon dioxide emissions. Okay, and even scientists went on and project how this will be in the next 30 years if things are as business as usual scenarios. And it showed that if we won't do anything, carbon dioxide levels or greenhouse gas level will go up. So we need to come up with something, both in the international and local level. We need to come up with something. So that's why law policies came up, like the Paris Agreement we talk about, 2015, ratification of Kyoto Protocol, just cities to bind themselves that they will reduce. That's what Kyoto Protocol is all about. Countries binding that we will work towards reducing our emission deduction. Is it okay? And how will we do that? Moving away from fossil fuel, but there are other good ways in which we can do that. Increase our forest cover, for example. Okay? That's another good way, because we know from the simple process of photosynthesis, trees are capable of capturing carbon dioxide, turning it into biomass that we've been talking today, and releasing good oxygen into the environment. So that's another way of ensuring that we are not degrading. We reduce in our degradation of our forest. We stop cutting, or we plant more to increase the system that are capturing these bad gases into the atmosphere. And it was a conclusive idea. It's an international thing. So globally, there were so many efforts. People are trying so much. Like the start of clean development mechanism, renewable energy, using back at home as one of our nationally intended national contribution, we are obligated now to stop using this bulb. We use the energy saving bulb. That's one way of moving away. We try to use as less as much. So each country, it's good at this level, you know what your country has committed to these treaties. So with the clean development mechanism, and then internationally we have, you know, the REDD+ concept, reducing deforestation and degradation and any other plus activities that ensures forest conservation. We can come up with nature-based enterprises in our forest system. For example, ecotourism. We ensure this area is protected because people are visiting. People will be scared to come and cut such areas. So all this, apart from this, then the international market thought of establishing carbon markets, places where a developing country could sell their credits from conservation efforts. That's one. Also, we have what we call climate funds that are there internationally that you can target. People, those who are emitters, are paying for what they are emitting. If they are not within the limit that they say they will, they have to pay for that. So there are ways in which these funds is kept together, and us in the developing country could apply for such funds by proving our project is capable of contributing towards reducing this emission. Are we together? So those are such funds. Another way is ensuring that most countries are binding to signing the Kyoto Protocol treaties. Once you sign, you have binded yourself. And I think almost every country has done that. So they have to ensure that there is reduction in emission of greenhouse gases. So with this, we have markets. Markets in carbon trading. There are two kinds of markets. We have one that is known as the compliance market, and this market is regulated by the Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. So it's an international one. I think you've heard about the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, yeah? That brings people together. So these are the ones that regulate that. So there are projects, you can come up with projects, and if you want to follow the compliance market, you have to be regulated by that. They have to come and assess the project proponent. Are they really doing this? Just from the bigger name, you can sense this is something big and will take a bigger time, right? So there's another simple market, voluntary carbon market. The voluntary carbon market, as the name suggests, is voluntary. There are people out of their own, like for example, you travel from Italy to come to Mozambique. If you check in your flight ticket, you'll see it shows how much carbon your flight has emitted. So for that, it will tell you that. So what institution in the developed country do, for example, university, I'll show you some of the projects later, and I'll tell you who are most of our buyers. Most of our buyers are university students. At the end of the year, all lecturers, all students who have traveled are asked to say how much their ticket has accumulated to carbon emission. And that's the university collectively take that and look for projects and buy carbon credits. So this is how much we have emitted. Our students and our lecturer emitted these tons of carbon dioxide, so we have to buy credits equivalent to these tons. And we saw yesterday 1 ton of carbon dioxide is equivalent to 1 credit. So that's how they calculate. So because they had committed to these treaties, they have to pay for the extra, because people have to travel. You had to come here and learn about and participated in this summer school. So you had to come. These are some of the things that we were talking yesterday. So we are making people to pollute more. No, you had to travel to come. So for that, we have to offset what we have emitted. And those are the funds that are collectively collected, and these are the funds that we can apply and do that. So in the voluntary carbon market, these are usually for very small projects. And they are assessed by different institutions or standards. We'll see later. So different institutions have different standards that we look at this standard, and each standard has its own requirement. So if for you, for example, I want to come up with a carbon offset project, anything in this life, you have to do with an objective. What is the objective of developing a carbon offset project? I want to develop for Inhaca a carbon offset project because I've seen this community participate very well in conservation. Their efforts are not paid for, and there's law, for example, from your social survey, you see their living condition is quite low. This is a way that we can attract these funds to improve their living condition. You understand? So for this, I have to look for a standard that is socially, it's favoring the social aspect. You understand? So that's why you need to understand every standard in carbon market, which one is best fit for you. And the kind of project that I can come up to ensure that I'm reducing, I'm helping in capturing emission. What kind of project? Do I need to restore more mangroves? Will I do only conservation of mangrove? Will I install maybe solar panels? Will I talk to the people to put energy-saving bulbs or use energy-saving stoves to reduce the number of wood they are using for cooking? So those are kind of projects. Each standard also has its different kind of projects. So are we together up to there? So for compliance, you have to follow the protocols of United Nations Framework for Climate Change. And for the voluntary carbon market, you just have to follow the simple standards that are there. And each standard has its own regulation. Each standard has its own kind of project that they're supporting. We'll see that. Yes.
I didn't get very well. Who can join the compliance markets?
It can be anywhere. It can be a private sector.
Okay.
It can a compliance market. You can join even as a national sector. It can be anyone, but because of the bureaucracy, it's difficult for a community on a local level to join the compliance market. And it's what do I say? It's assessment. It's a long process that requires a lot of funding, and we're looking for something that is simple, that we can attract, that will not cost us much in coming up with this.
Okay.
So we have private individuals with big funds that are applying for the compliance market. So it can be at any level.
Okay.
Yes. So for the voluntary carbon market, just for the name, it's just simple. We have, I said, all of us are, all countries are committed to reducing their emission. We all have a certain level that we can reduce out. But there are sometimes things beyond our ways that we have to release some emission. Like for example, the example I gave you, flying, so we have to account for how much emission it is. So each one of us has to ensure that we are at zero, that whatever we emit is compensated somewhere. That's how voluntary carbon market for the developing country. So whatever they emit, they have to compensate in the developing country projects that are working into conservation or reducing changes in the in forests, for example. Are we together up to there? Abdul, you like ask the question.
I want to understand, but we see teacher was talking like a private or a community can apply to sell their carbon, but
to sell their credits, carbon
their
credits, yes,
carbon,
yes.
But it will be good if they sell it as a country. Is that what I understood?
No, no, no. I did not say it will be good if they sell it as a country. At any level. We can come up with projects at any level. Like I told you yesterday, I took you through, there are a lot of interest now. Now we are talking about new terms. Apart from carbon trading, we are talking about internationally transferable mitigation outcome. So as a country, for example, in Kenya, we have some activity we are doing. And if we look at what each country has been given to be able to emit, we are not in that level. So we are still have a minus, and we are doing some activities in conservation. So we see countries coming, and so that's in a national level. You understand?
Yes.
But we can look for projects that are doing activities that will benefit into carbon trading. We'll see some of the activities that we can do, either reforesting, restoration, protecting, ensuring, protecting, such activities that will help in mitigating this climate change impact and quantify how much the activities are able to capture. And we convert them into credits, and that's what we sell for people. So every year our activity is able to conserve 3,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year. So Francisca will come and buy 10 tons, because this year he's traveling from Italy to Mozambique. He emitted that 10 tons, he buy that. That's the money that is collected, and we can find it. Okay, I want to buy, they check also what kind of project. Some people say, I just want projects that are working in mangrove areas. And these tons of carbon have different values. You'll see people say, okay, how much are they selling that project? In the market, the ton of carbon dioxide per hectare, it's this much. I want to give $20. Instead of 10, I want to pay more because of the kind of activity they are doing, because of the nature of the project. And you realize all these documents about projects, they are found online. So people keep looking what kind of projects are being done and what motivates them and what they think will better suit their money in the project. You had a question there.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I get the general idea, but I wanted to ask for a more practical, specific example to understand better, but I think we'll get there. So
Yes, I have a very good example of carbon trading project, and then from tomorrow we'll develop our own. I'll take you through the process, how we develop this project, but today I want you to have the general knowledge, and from the example I want to start grasping what kind of activity we can do for Inhaca. Okay. What are the steps? Because you learn from the example that I'll share. Okay? So these are it's just these things are there everywhere. Once you identify your project, you can go and check what is the requirement for each standard, so that you know which standard to follow. Like for example, which are the supporters. If you see like big supporters, you know, it has so many protocols to follow. Yeah. Environmentalists and social NGOs, for example, that is something, if we sell our project of Inhaca of improving the community livelihood, that could be a good idea. You understand? You can also look at the kind of project each standard is supporting. For example, in CDM is on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and LLUs is land use cover change, and forestry, things to do with forestry, where I think we fit best. So you keep on checking. Some they need verification. People have to come. That is an extra added cost. Some do not need that. So you look at even your budget and see which you can go for. I'll tell you each why, and then maybe the price. The price of carbon keep changing. This might be a very low price. Like I told you, for our 2 projects last year, in the market, say $8 to $10 per ton. We sold ours $20 to $25. So it keeps changing. This is something you cannot look at. Just look at what's your activity. Are they fit for energy efficiency or reducing renewable energy? Are they forestry activities? What can you do? And then you look for the standards that best fit your project activity. Stop me if you want. Yes.
So all these standards are for the voluntary market.
Voluntary carbon market. So we have one, the CDM is the compliance market. So you see its supporters are mainly the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change. It has a large, so those who are working on the renewable energy, those who have projects that are energy efficient could apply for this. You see gold standard is only renewable energy, there's no forestry. So definitely we don't fit. If you are forester, you want to work for forestry projects. You see Red Plus VCS is also a good one for a community project. Verified carbon standard. Climate community biodiversity standard is CCBS. From the word to climate community biodiversity standard, you know this. But you go then and check in detail what are the requirements. You'll see, this is too much. And then you'll fall for another one. Then for Plant Vivo standard, which mostly we use this for our projects, that's what we are following the standards, and that's what we sold our ideas to. It's because of the social aspect of it. So I'll go in detail on Plant Vivo standard. Not that I want you, when you are developing, to follow that standard, but I've used that, and according to our interests here, yesterday community, how can community benefit from this? I feel this fits best. And for Plan Vivo standard, if you look at this standard, they all have their requirements. For this standard, one has to ensure that it is participatory. You cannot sit, me and you here, even if we know Inhaca inside out. We know about the forest, we know about the people, we know about everything, and write a project, me and you, and submit. We have to involve the people on the ground. So we'll do a lot of stakeholders engagement. Not only the local people, all the stakeholders that are engaged in the mangrove system. That's why we are coming again to the governors. Who are those people who are involved in this? So we need to do like stakeholders analysis to identify the stakeholders. So this is more of participatory. Another thing that Plan Vivo really is strictly about, your project should ensure it benefits three systems. Climate, it goes beyond carbon. Climate, of course, mitigation, of course, if we say we are planting, we are conserving, we'll be benefiting the climate, yeah? But biodiversity aspect, a system should capture biodiversity aspect. If we protect our mangrove system, aren't we conserving the biodiversity? If we think of conserving our mangrove, aren't we also, in a way, conserving biodiversity that are there? We have been talking yesterday, mangroves are home for various fish.
Yes.
Yeah, for example, if you're talking about people in Inhaca, do they depend, are they fisher folks? Are they, their livelihood, is it dependent on fisheries? Yes, it is.
Yes.
And is mangrove not a home or a nursery for fish?
Yes.
So those are the things. So for this, you have to show in your project that it's benefiting biodiversity. And then, most important thing, I think you show from the requirement, most of this standard, the people that are into this standard are social NGOs, right? So there should be a social impact. You have to indicate that this money that we receive will impact socially the people who are foregoing this part of the forest. So this is the requirement. And another thing about this standard is saying, from the benefit, of course, you'll get your money, but there's all the standard, you have to show how the benefit sharing scheme, once this money comes in, how will it be divided? But in Plan Vivo, they have a special clause saying at least 60% of this fund should go directly to community projects. 60%.
Okay.
And that's high compared to the others?
Yeah, quite high.
Quite high.
Yeah. So at least 60%. In the others, like for example, gold standard, it has nothing to do with community. You show, you don't show, so long as you can prove you are removing emission, not impacting community. There are only three standards: the Vera, the VCS, and the CCBS and the Plan Vivo that wants to show the community aspect. But for this, it goes and say at least 60%. So you see, more. But if you have interest of community at heart, I'm not saying that we should follow this. VCS is also good, but I just want to show you why we should go there. So, and why should we come up with a carbon offset project? So for us to develop carbon offset project, we usually ask ourselves three questions. Because one thing, we want to ensure that our mangrove system continue to supply the goods and services. People still need to use fuel to cook. They have to. People still need to build their houses. In some area, they don't even have an alternative. So, but we want this supply to continue over time. So thinking of that, so we need to come up with activity that will ensure this is sustainably there. And then, what is the role of the community in all these projects? How can they come in? Apart from that, we also are, how can we incentivize? We've been asking ourselves, people have been conserving, yeah? You know, this is how the whole idea came in. People have been conserving these mangrove activities, they've been involved in restoration activity. Every World Mangrove Day, we involve them in planting. Oh, we are going to plant today's, I don't know, Fisheries Day, we want to plant mangrove. Every time you call them, they come. They'll even come and report those who are using illegal gears to harvest mangroves. You know, they are helping in the management. But what do they get in return? They are told no to cut more, blah, blah, blah. So we wanted to incentivize their efforts, and that's why we thought of developing carbon offset projects for the community. So we are in Kenya, we have the first mangrove carbon offset project in the whole world. We were and I'm one among the developers of that project, termed, maybe you've heard about it, called Mikoko Pamoja. I don't know how many of you have heard of this project. Mikoko Pamoja is just a Swahili word meaning mangrove together. Mangroves bringing us together. Mikoko, do you even, what do you call Mikoko, mangroves here?
It could also, in the north, it's similar to
Mikoko. And Mikoko is
a... we call it Tse.
Okay, for Kenya, Mikoko is the local name for Rhizophora mucronata. And because it's... yes, we also have Mkanda. You have Mkanda? Yes. Mkanda is cereals. So Rhizophora mucronata, because it's so dominant, all mangroves were called Mikoko. So when you call Mkoko, you are not, in Kenya, you are not referring to Rhizophora mucronata, but the mangrove in whole. So here, because of so many, the three questions I told you, researchers from Kemfri, where I come from, and we, for a long time, we had a program that we are bringing students from UK to come and help us in mangrove conservation. They'll come, like now, we've started this summer school. We used to do that in Kenya. So in a very small area called Gazi Bay, in the southern part of Kenya. So a lot of students will come every year for a summer school, and they'll work on mangrove conservation, we'll do transect, we'll plant mangroves. And for a long time, it was an exchange program between the United Kingdom and Kenya. So students are coming to learn about the system like what you're doing. But and then for a time, how I met Professor Celia, they wanted to do the first African, it was called the first African, let's say, summer school. Yeah. So I was the person from Kenya. At that time we were just fresh from undergrad like you, and so we were the first African mangrove team to go to the Gazi Bay, the most researched mangrove area, and our work during that time contributed to this project. Because during that time, we will track the forest, we will do the structures. We didn't know we were collecting data. So even what you're doing here is building base for something. So even Celia participated in the baseline studies for this project. So it was like that. So researchers from Kenya, and then start to say, there's this aspect now, there's climate change funds, there's change in climate change. Why don't we sit down and develop a project to give back to the community that have been hosting these students every year coming, community who have been involved in conservation effort. And we have long-term data. For 10 years, students have been coming. Remember, forest structure every year. We have a lot of data for that. So that's what gave rise to the first ever mangrove carbon offset project. So for the time, and now it's just purely community-led project. It's a village. Gazi Bay comprises of 2 villages, Gazi and Makongeni, we'll see in the next map. So they came together and formed this project. It's an area with about 700 hectares of mangrove. 700 hectares, HA. So, of course, there are users, different users. There are people who are seeing mangrove for construction. There are people who want to use mangroves for wood. There are people who use, for a carbon offset project, you cannot say we are taking all the forest. You'll see the condition of coming up with. You have to take a percentage that you think it will be feasible for that project. So, and all the stakeholders involved have to come together and agree on what needs to be. So we started far, 200, no, that's too much. What about the licensees who cut as a living? What about the beekeepers who are doing honey production in the forest? No, until they came up with a certain hectares that they could protect. So for this, it's just, from 700, we are just protecting 117 hectares of mangrove. And that is after a long negotiation with different users coming in, going on, and deciding why we have to take this. And from that, the forest that we chose, I think today we saw a very good graph. You can have a very big forest, but with a little amount of biomass. So this 117, it's able to conserve 3,000 tons of carbon dioxide every year, and that is what we are selling to the carbon market. So this is the first one. Like I said, this is Kenya here. Oh my God, I'm not tiny. I don't have like sea here. And that's our project area. That's the bay, the Gazi Bay with the 700 hectares. Area 1 is a total natural forest. No one planted it. From the forest structure we've done, because I told you yesterday, I mentioned something and I repeat yesterday, a carbon of, you have to give a forest that has capability of growing. It has to add, not something that is not growing anymore, because every year we have to prove how much our forest has added. So we will be doing monitoring. So after doing all the surveys and structure of the forest, we said, this area is very good. It's a potential of growing 6:3:1, the ratio is quite good, you know, so it will be growing. We have this kind of trees inside there. So from the structure, that enabled us to identify that as our area. Okay, but that was just 100 hectares, 107 hectares. But after consultation, then the community said, but there's that forest, we remember. Sometimes so-and-so came and planted, and that area is really growing so well. So the area number 2 is a restored area, which was once totally degraded. It's now 20 years old, Rhizophorum coronata, growing so well. And that's when you visit Kenya, that's an area you'll go and you just appreciate the hard work of local community. We want to sell something from that. So that was our area number 2. And then that's area number 3. So this we are developing activities. We have to, for avoided deforestation, so it's the 100 hectares at one, and the 107 hectares at one, of course, and the plantation also tops in the 10 hectares. And then we want also to keep planting, but we have to show an area that once was impacted. We have to know the reason. That's why I'm saying you have to know your system. So from our social surveys and also from our structure, we came to understand. We did first mapping and show, this area for once was very well with this species, but after this year, it's totally bare. What was the cause? Asked people around, and you are told this area, 1989, it was totally cleared for coal, calcium industry, for coal production, for producing coal. So we have a story to tell in our project idea note. We want to show people that they can benefit from the conservation, and we have an area that has affected. So how much can we plant every year? At least 4,000 seedlings we can plant, and this is able after some time to capture this amount, and this is our story. So you see how the story comes in. You have to know your area, you have to know your activity. So from these activities, which standard do you think we should use? Of course not gold. It has nothing with land use, land cover change. We are talking about land use, land cover change in 3, you understand? Yeah. We want to plant, we want to avoid, we want to bring back the system as it is. For who? For biodiversity, for climate, and also this area, another thing, next to it is a coconut plantation. So, and coconut is a staple plant for the community. They depend on it. So you see coconut failing now because there is no protection. A lot of coconut failing down. People are losing their most important tree. Community aspect is coming apart from the funds getting in. So these are the things that you write and prove to the people. So that's how we build up our stories. Looking for an area, and even when you are looking for the area, you build the story. So that's our site, and that is some of our activity, and you can see who are most involved in this. women. Why? That's another question for the day. So we are doing reforestation of degraded areas, the area 3 I told you about. We are avoiding deforestation. So in this project, we've employed communities, forest scouts, who move around. Because even if the community are the ones who gave you us the area, they agreed to the system, there's that human nature of going back. And for us, we've committed to, for 20 years. So we have to ensure there's no cutting in this area. So we have to take care of us. There are those who want, and there are those who are just there to destroy our system. So we've employed forest scouts who move around and ensure that this forest is not cut. So during our baseline studies, we recorded the number of stumps that are there in that area. That's one thing to report. So this is the forest, full of this kind of trees. Per year, we think this forest will be increasing this much. This is the amount of carbon that our forest will be sequestering per year. And with this is the number of credits that we are selling. Look for buyers for us. But again, we need to ensure that the number of stumps are not increasing. So if we reported during the baseline, we had 16 stumps, and during our next year monitoring, we say we have 20 stumps. What does that mean? There's no permanence in that plot. Yeah. So something is happening, and we are losing money. So it's that business. You have to prove you are doing it for us to pay, to buy. So, and there's no line. Because after 5 years, somebody has to come and verify. For example, we lie this year, we say, let's not report those 2. Next year, 2 added. 5 years, somebody has to come. We call it an embed, to come and see if it's still the same. And what if he finds 20? We have a chance of losing the whole project and also destroying our name. So we have to be very careful in reporting, monitoring, and verifying. So we have to ensure that the people involved are well educated in what you've been doing yesterday. And to tell you the truth, we did this for the first, second year, but I don't know the last time I went to do monitoring in that project. I don't remember. Now it's just community groups doing their forest structure and reporting. We train them in that. So if a local community, some of them did not even sit in class, can do that, we can do it. And they do it annually because they have to report. If you find good internet, just Google Mikoko Pamoja. You'll find all the annual reports, not written by Amina or anyone from Kemfree, but by a local community who is monitoring the project. We call them project coordinators. So, but with this, for the forest to be intact, there has to be a lot of awareness and educating people. I will tell you the truth. Selling the concept of carbon to the local community is not easy. People will ask you, how are you capturing this? How will we package it? You want us to leave cutting our forest to sell carbon? How? But by now you stop anyone within the Gazi Bay, and he or she, even a kid, will explain to you because of the impact it has had to the community. And that's one aspect of the, yes.
The community involved with the project can sustain their livelihood with the income they get?
We'll see, I'm coming there. We'll see whether they cannot, but there's things that are happening.
You're going there.
Yeah, I'm going there.
Yeah, don't spoil.
Huh? Yeah, I don't want to spoil because I have nice picture. Because you say, she said probably not. I have proof to show you. So we have to monitor our forest every month, every year.
And what happens if the number of stumps increases?
We report and we cut and no. And they do their calculation, and of course our credits but not much. What we are failing in this project is the restoration aspect. We are losing a lot because we underestimated that area. That area, the system in that area changed a lot. It's changed, so we will plant and we'll have 0 survival rate.
But I would like to know what you do. I have a question. Reforestation, when you plant, for example, do report for here.
Yeah.
Every year you have to do report. So when you reforestate, so we mean that the plant right here, maybe it can grow to be a child.
Yeah.
So you have to.
We don't account for the carbon of the reforestation because they are still very young, but it's one of the activities that is added into the cell.
Okay.
So it's not the carbon of it.
Okay.
But because we said, you see, I didn't put that graph to show how much we are getting from the avoided deforestation from these forests, because we had to do that. We have, for this system, you have to show this system has this project, and this 10 hectares of mangrove reforestation will be able to capture this, and every year this is the amount of carbon that can capture, so you have to be in detail. That's why you have to have the skill of conducting forest structure and to know how much to calculate the amount of carbon your system can. It's very important to have that skill. And you will do that from data, and we'll use those values to do a project. Not for Inhaca, we'll assume it's for Inhaca, and we'll incorporate it here. Okay? So our agent here is that person, money paid to assess, Association of Coastal Ecosystem Services. They are people who are helping us in that. So they are the ones that are looking for the market for us, and the money, when it's paid, it comes to this. So, and for them, they are following the Plan Vivo standard. So that's why we develop our project according to the Plan Vivo standard. So once that money comes, it's a Scottish charity organization. Somebody will ask, why did you go to that Scottish? I told you for a long time, we've had a partnership between the UK university, actually it's Napier Edinburgh University. Like now it's with Italian corporation, so they have a very good relationship with this. So it's like let's help this community. So they collect the funds on behalf of the community. We'll see how that goes until we start selling our funds. And then once the funds comes in, it comes into our account.
Yes.
But they hold 6%. I told you after, in the system, in the carbon market, you have to prove the project is there. You know, anyone can sit somewhere and develop a project. Amina carbon offset project, I have this hectare we have in this area we have. You can come and write, and you prove. People can really write, and it looks so real. But in the carbon market, there should be verification. So we keep aside money for somebody to come and ensure all the activity are still there. And it's us to pay for that. So for this, imagine if all that money comes to us. After 5 years, we'll have money to pay. Of course not. Money is very nice when it comes into the pocket. So the Scottish always hold like 6% of this money for that purposes.
Did you already get a verification?
We are in our 10th year of, so we have had one. This is 10, so this year is coming for the second.
You already had one and you're going to have another.
The second one. And our project is verified for 20 years. So after 20 years, we can be able to say, maybe because of the benefits we've had, let's extend to this amount, to this thing. So we've had one good and we passed for that. So we are expecting another one this year coming. It won't be good because we did there's some mischief activities that happen. So we are a bit scared. It's very complicated. And so in the benefit sharing scheme, even in our document, we have to say how the money will be used. So most of the money goes back to the community to support their reforestation activity. Now you see our community members, when they go to plant, they are paid. Initially it was voluntary work. But now you call this planting for Mikoko, everyone, it will be fights. Everyone wants to go and plant because they are getting something out of it. You understand? And for years it was just a voluntary work. So we have a system. The coordinator ensures this year, this time you did last year. No, you'll go for monitoring. So they have their own way to see who benefits in what aspect. And some money, of course we had to pay an overall somebody who will be managing. So we call him a project coordinator who ensures that there's good reporting. Of course they go do monitoring, they have to be supervised, but we need at least somebody with a certain class. So we have, at least when we are advertising for this sport, we say at least you should have a degree. It's a community that they didn't value education, but now everyone wants to go to school because there are so many opportunities for those who are. The current coordinator, I'm telling you, when we were starting this, we could not find anyone with a degree to come and do this project. I was the coordinator for 6 months for this project. And I remember we started talking, creating awareness, go study, environmental studies are also good. And now the current project coordinator is born and raised in that village with a degree in coastal and fisheries management. And you can imagine the managing. It's more, maybe me, I'm from outside, I would be doing, it's because of the money at the end of the month. But for this one, I expect him to do more than I would have done. And maybe for me, because I was involved in the developing, but for him, it's the community and ensuring the funds capture the right things in the community. So this is how the math is involved. Somebody was asking how. So I've tried to talk about the impacts. You remember I said you try as much as possible to align your activity with the interests of the national, international agendas. Ensure that they follow the Sustainable Development Goal. You talk about Paris Agreement, blah, blah. You will be able to get money. So for us, I told you about the scouts. We have 3 scouts directly employed in these activities. In this project, we have the project coordinator from the village already employed. Those are how many people? So 4 places for people from the community. You'll see later, we supported, it's a village that did not have water. Maybe when I reach in that slide, I'll just pass. So we were using, I saw even here wells. For us, they were just open wells, you know? Mm-hmm. So a lot of contaminated diseases from water usage. So when we got their first funding went to education. We supported education. But the second payment, and because it's a community thing, we call what I told you baraza, and it has to be decided by everyone. People vote, no, take that money to education, buy school books for people. No, let's buy this until we come to a consensus. So for the second year, people agree that we need to improve the water system. So we are able to pipe water into water points in the community where now people can go and get drinking water, good. Initially, women used to walk a long distance in search of water. But with the help of the project, we now have water points, and they're using less time, so they're using more time taking care of their children. Now people are drinking good water that is not contaminated. You'll see a lot of water points supported by Mikoko Pamoja. It was not there. I've been in that village for over 10 years, and the water problem was so bad. Only the able were able to drill water. So from that water, now we have 20 youth who have come together, and they started car wash. You know, you understand? Water in the village, now another business. You see the way things move. Now we have 20 youth with that business. So we say our project is supporting 20 youth. We have an ecotourism activity in the village along the mangrove forest. It's the first nature-based enterprises we started in the mangrove areas. It's just a walkway within the mangrove forest managed by women, and they receive tourists who come and pay. Most of our tourists are local school coming to learn about mangroves. They've heard about, so they come, and university students. We have a research center where I come in the village. So most university students come for studying the biodiversity and the mangroves. We ask them, it is important to visit the ecotourism before anything else. You'll do the forest structure, you'll learn, we'll teach you, but give back to the community, visit this ecotourism, and they pay a fee. So we'll host 100 students from doing biology, for example, and imagine that funds going back to the community. So we are helping, also supporting other activity since 2016. I told you about the first fund. We were able to buy, I don't know in your countries, but in our countries, public school, are not that good. Some will not have books, and they expect, some parents cannot even afford to buy textbooks. So with this project, we ensure that the local school in Gazi and Makongeni have textbook from class 1 to class 8. So the students can use when they are where they are in school. We are also able to renovate, because by the time we wait for government funds to reach us, it takes long. Every now when it's raining, people have to stop learning, blah, blah, blah. So at least with this money, the community could agree to renovate some of the classroom. We have girls who are not attending school because during their menses. So we have something we call period poverty, so we remove that. We supply tampons and pads to school, so now girls can go to school whenever they are in their menses, and they don't miss classes. So what we do, we have a social impact officer that we've employed. We are tracking if the system is what is working. Maybe next time when I'm talking, I'll have graphs showing you how the performance was in 2016 and how because it takes time to see such impacts. So that's for education. I told you during, when we get these funds, we have like a sitting, and it has to be decided by the whole community. And you see in decision making, we ensure women are there and they're making chances. You see most of the water project came from women. No, we want water. They're thinking about their time walking a long distance for water. So you see women making decisions, being able to make changes within the village and all that. I told you about the water sanitation, so you see, community water project funded by what? Mikoko Pamoja. Schools now have water, tapped water, because they didn't have this. Now, in all the local schools, we've built water system. You see a woman very happy now. They're paying something small, very little. It's negligible, but just for the maintenance and electricity to pump the water. But we've removed that water, and it's safe, piped water that you'll never. You came to Gaza. Was there water in that village? Hey, we have piped water now in the village, and all is through the project.
I have to go back.
Where?
So that was it. I can't remember last time.
So yeah, I was just, of course, one of our activities is restoration. So this is life below water. Of course, if we restore mangroves, we are supporting fisheries and all that. So Mikoko Pamoja protects 117 hectares of mangrove and has been restoring 0.5 hectares annually. The project has saved these tons of emission during the 8 years that it was. This is a presentation I did 3 years ago. Sorry. Community woodlots. So yesterday I mentioned a carbon offset project has 3 conditions. A project should show additionality. This added carbon in the system. Permanence. It's not today we are here, tomorrow we are there, or today we have 4 stamps, tomorrow we have 5 stamps, 6 stamps. It should be permanent. There should be that. The additionality should be permanent. And the project should avoid leakage. I will during the development we'll also mention leakage ensures that now remember this was a system of 700 hectares, yeah, right? And the community were used to the whole forest. But we have such a huge part that we've kept aside. So there are people who are denied going to that forest. So we have to ensure that they are getting an alternative from there. So one way, this was our initial way, we were planting fast-growing species in farmlands. Casuarina, what do you call casuarina? Species that grows very fast and people can use as spawn. So what we have reduced, they can get an alternative. But now we've moved a step further. We've identified energy-saving stoves that we are distributing in houses. So if a family was using 5 logs to cook shima, he's using now 2 logs. So we have to show that there's no leakage, because if we are reducing here, these people will still move to another system. And mangroves don't have boundary. We have another village just next, they'll move there. So we have to show that what are we doing to minimize leakage. We have woodlots in farmlands we ensure that we'll be planting this. And most of this we plant with school children during Environmental Day while educating them, creating awareness. Today is Ocean Day. We want to plant mangrove, we want to plant woodlots. We just go to save money and also to create awareness so that when they grow, they know this is quite important because of this and this and this. With this, I'm telling you, these are not lies. We've managed to earn an Equator Prize in 2017. This was the first coordinator, and this is a representative from the village. They traveled all the way to New York to go and receive this present for the village. It's the first time the woman got into a plane, and they received because of the work that we are doing. Just last year, you see, here are the 12 top innovators working to increase the supply of high-quality blue carbon projects and credits. Look at the names of the projects. Distance, whatever, imagery, friendship, Bangladesh, big project. And there comes our small project, 100 Mikoko Pamoja community. You know, being recognized with the small efforts that we are doing. The best part. Who knows this one? Do you know we got fundings from Leonardo DiCaprio to replicate our project in another area?
He's doing a lot of work.
Yes, he recognized our project, and I'm telling you, we received 750,000 euros to replicate Mikoko Pamoja to another area because of the success stories. And we did that. We now have a new Mikoko Pamoja project.
Why that question?
What? Why us?
No, she's asking if Leonardo DiCaprio went to visit him.
He'll come.
We always
But we got the money and we are able to replicate Mikoko Pamoja in another area. So Mikoko Pamoja is just 117 hectares, just 50 kilometers. We got so many people. Now because of the success of Mikoko Pamoja, you see communities. Oh, even as we want. Everyone now wants to develop this project. So with the money from Leonardo and other funders, and he's not the only one, and other, because the process is very expensive. You went yesterday. How many quadrants did you do? How many were you? 10.
Yeah, but
That is just one.
we
need to do baseline studies, studying the people. So it's very expensive. It's very expensive coming up with a carbon footprint. A lot of in-kind. Remember, we were used, me and Celia, to do this. A lot of in-kind contribution to care. So with that money, we were able to do the Vanga Blue Forest project. This is just 50 kilometers south of Mikoko Pamoja, and it's a bigger area. For them, they are conserving 416 hectares. I think it's 10% of what they have. That means their forest is capturing 5,600 tons, 23 tons of carbon dioxide, so that's what they are selling. Remember, Mikoko Pamoja was just 3,000 tons. With that, that's the amount they're getting every year, $48,713 US. It's very little, yeah? But the impact it does, it's quite a lot. And we are already seeing that. So this project also is helping in conservation. And last year we were able to construct a laboratory for a local secondary school. It's in its 3rd year of payment. Mikoko Pamoja is in 10th year of payment. Yeah? So it's possible, very possible. With Mikoko Pamoja, you've seen we are transforming lives. It's very little. Actually, from the 3,000 I didn't mention, the income we are getting is about 18,000 US dollar. It's very little, but the impact, the project that we are doing, it's quite a lot. And it's impacting a lot of people. That's a lot, little money for carbon.
Yes,
It's not so much, but impact the areas that it's impacting, it's covering a lot of people. You've seen that all credits are owned by the community, not for us. We were involved in the management. For now, Kemfree, Edinburgh University are like stakeholders, just like there to provide guidance. We are just watching from afar. We are not involved any direct, and of course coming here and telling you about Mikoko Pamoja. When I hear there's a conference, I want to go and preach about Mikoko Pamoja, I get to travel, and that's how I'm benefiting from it. Okay, and of course it's a triple win. We see it's impacting community, climate, biodiversity, we are there. We are good.
And there are no NGOs involved in that area?
We have NGOs, like, the process of developing, of course, the baseline study, you have to know your system of getting into the system. So for our case, for us to come, for the community to be able to come up with a carbon offset project, to have user rights in the mangrove. Remember, this is a gazetted forest. It's under an institution called Kenya Forest Services. But there's a law that allows them to have the user rights. But they have to form what is called community forest association, to find other users, come together and form. And develop what we call participatory forest management agreements with the department that is in charge of the forest. And that's a long process, because you have to, it's a long process with everything, and which requires funding. So for Mikoko Pamoja, for example, WWF, you know WWF, helps us in developing participatory forest management agreement. So we use them in that area. That's why I say a lot of people, a lot of efforts were involved in the development.
I'm very impressed because there aren't NGOs working in that area. You know, but usually NGOs are a big budget stuff.
We don't follow their budget so long as they tell us what they help us achieve our mandate, we are there. So you can't be change policy. You can't look for projects. You think wide. Have a goal. I'm doing this for what? For this and this and this. You have future goals for your communities, for helping your community. And yeah, happy students saying thank you for Mikoko Pamoja after school, and it's all there. Even if you want to see the PIN, the project idea note, the project development document for this, if you Google, you'll find all our annual reports are there, and you see no report has been written by Amina, you see Salim, Kasim, and these are local people. Of course, they come and show us, oh, this is right, blah, blah, blah. The good thing with the voluntary carbon markets, you don't hide anything. So if somebody today goes and say, this one, they reported this, and I know last year they did not do this, it's in public document, because it's public funds. You can go there. So all the documents, once your PIN is approved, your project idea note is approved, it's posted online. And we'll see how to develop this. But most important, understand your system. Know the people, because this is the information that is needed, like developing a proposal. So each standard has its own guideline. You are needed to say this about the project, so you start with like a proposal, in Inhaca area, because this community is like this. So meaning, you want to say about the community, you have to do a social survey, questionnaire study to know. How will you know about Inhaca people? What economic activity they are involved in? How are they using mangroves? So that was one of the exercises that I had planned to develop a questionnaire. We go and try to do so that we have information about the system, but already you've done a questionnaire study, so we won't do that. We'll just move directly towards development of the project idea note. And we'll use secondary data to know about Inhaca. What are the community, what livelihood activity are involved, because we'll write that. Because already you've had the experience of collecting the social data. Okay? So, yeah.
So we should go to Kenya after Rome.
Yes, you should come.
Yes. Make sure it's when the country is there. Yeah.
So after understanding the governance of the system, today's exercise was for you to start thinking of the kind of activities we can do in Inhaca. They can't be big like Mikoko Pamoja or Vanga Blue Forest, but we can have unique ones that you think they can be done, and how can we integrate other systems. So, and from the area, from the survey you've done, what area do you think the community will agree? So these are some of the things that we are building up for our project idea notes. And tomorrow we'll go through the steps. Some you've already learned. Very simple. It's very simple. Baseline. Then we develop, we do stakeholders consultations. We develop the PIN. I'll show you the structure of the PIN. And then we'll sit and develop a temporary PIN. I already have an example of PIN that we can use so that you have the hands-on skills of developing a project. And
We have
decide.
to do some deliverables for the project, or
So like today, we start identifying activities that we can do, right? You are supposed by now to understand the governance of the system. What's the procedure? I told you for us, before even starting, we had to form the Community Forest Association. We looked for funds from WWF to develop a particular forest management agreement between the community and the government institution in charge of the forest. So with that, we formed a Community Forest Association. We registered ourselves as a user group, and then we went on to start studying the system and doing this. So that's why I said it's important to know at what point are we entering the system. What are the laws that allow us to be users in this system? And then by now, from these few examples, you already have an idea of the activities that we can do. What's the problem here? What's the problem? What activity do we have areas that are degraded we can do reforestation? If not, what kind of other activities that are in line with land use cover change and forestry that we can do, avoid deforestation, and how much can we set aside, right? Because all that it's just writing and putting the ideas together. We won't be going around and doing stakeholders analysis, but from the examples we see, we'll be able to develop an arbitrary project at the end. Just a simple one. The Mikoko Pamoja one is just 14 pages with the references, with pictures and everything. Very simple. We can use that to develop for Inyaca one, so that you understand what is needed. Okay? Are we together?
That's amazing.
Great. It's always amazing to give this. Yep. Okay.